There are some topics that get talked about all the time in procurement. Cost savings, digitalization, supplier collaboration. And then there are topics that almost never get talked about, like having a coach. Not a football coach, not a trainer, a real coach. Someone who helps you reflect, reframe and grow. Not just as a professional, but as a person. It's easy to think coaching is for people who are struggling. But I would argue the opposite is true. The most impressive leaders I've worked with, the ones who really drive change, build great teams and inspire trust, almost always have someone in the background. A person they can be vulnerable with. A person who helps them see what they can see themselves. In my novel, the CPO, Thomas Sutter has just taken on the role of Chief Procurement Officer at Heartland Consolidated. He's bright, he's driven, analytical, he knows procurement cold. But what he doesn't know is how to operate in a completely foreign corporate culture where procurement has never had a seat at the table and where plenty of people are waiting for him to fail. Enter John McGrath. John is a coach, not a therapist, not a consultant, a coach. He doesn't give Thomas the answers. He doesn't tell him what to do. But what he does do is more powerful. He helps Thomas reflect on the real issues, not just the operational problems, but the internal resistance, the emotional strain, the self-doubt. He holds up a mirror. And in doing that, he becomes one of the most important people in Thomas's journey. Because here's the truth. Once you step into a top leadership role, people stop giving you honest feedback. Everyone has an agenda. Everyone filters. And without someone you trust, someone who has no stake in your success or failure, it becomes dangerously easy to get stuck in your own head. But let me be very clear. John McGrath isn't the right coach for everyone. He has a military background. His strength is in helping leaders manage complexity, conflict and transformation. But what if your challenge is something else? What if you're dealing with burnout, with chronic stress, with anxiety or depression? Then a coach like John may not be good enough. You might need someone with a formal training in psychology, in mental health, in how the human mind works. And that's okay. Coaching is not a one-size-fits-all solution. It depends on what you need at this moment in your life. Some of my clients have tried something else entirely. In moments of high uncertainty, when they didn't feel ready to talk to another human being, they started coaching chats with ChatGPT. And you know what? They got value from it. No, it's not a replacement for a trained coach, but as a starting point, as a way to clarify your own thinking, test your assumptions, or just get things off your chest, it's surprisingly effective. And I'd go further. I think there's a future where AI becomes part of how we coach ourselves. Not the whole picture, but a part of the picture. Something that helps us stay grounded when everything around us feels unsteady. Still, let me come back to the main point. If you think you don't need a coach, you probably need one more than anyone. That's the paradox, because the higher you go, the more isolated you become. The more confident you appear on the outside, the more doubt you may carry on the inside. Let me ask you this. Would Rafael Nadal ever show up to a Grand Slam final without his coach? Would Simone Biles walk into a World Championship without hers? Of course not. Why? Because no matter how good they are, how great they are, they know they can't reach the best alone. So why should it be any different in procurement, or in leadership, or in life? This isn't about weakness. It's about strength. It's about ambition. It's about having the humility to say, I want to grow, and I'm not going to do it alone. So if you don't have a coach, maybe it's time to get one. And if you do have a coach, maybe it's time to thank them. Because chances are your next big breakthrough isn't going to come from a new tool or a new process. It's going to come from a new perspective, one that starts with the question, what am I not seeing? Thanks for watching. I'm Schuh, and this has been Procurement in the Park.